Coming up on Arirang News, South Korea and the United States revise their missile guidelines so that South Korea can launch vehicles into space on its own at any time or place. President Moon Jae-in welcomes an agreement between the government, business, and labor aimed at helping the South Korean economy overcome the pandemic. All three sides, he says, have made concessions. And the U.S. drug maker Moderna enters the final stage of trials for a coronavirus vaccine. There could be hundreds of millions of doses available by early next year. It's 5 p.m. here in Seoul. Thanks for tuning in to Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. South Korea, under an agreement with its ally, the United States, can now use solid fuel to launch vehicles into space. It had not been allowed to before, but effective Tuesday, those restrictions on missiles have been revised.
All South Korean companies, research institutes, and private individuals will be able to freely research, develop, produce, and possess various types of launch vehicles without any restrictions, including those driven by solid fuel and hybrid engines.
South Korea will be able to launch spy satellites into orbit below an altitude of 2,000 kilometers at any time or place. The change was negotiated over a period of 9 months. The missile guidelines were first drawn up in 1979 to regulate South Korea's missile development. They were revised most recently in 2017 to get rid of a limit on the payload weight of South Korean ballistic missiles with a range of 800 kilometers. The top office said that the range limit remains in place, but that it can be negotiated in due time. The U.S. biotech company Moderna has started the final stage of trials for a coronavirus vaccine. If successful, there could be almost enough doses for every American by early next year. Kim Jae-hee has the latest.
Moderna has entered its last phase of human trials of its COVID-19 vaccine candidate. Starting Monday, the Phase 3 clinical trial will enroll 30,000 healthy people at 89 sites around the U.S. Lasting a couple of months, it's the world's biggest experimental COVID-19 vaccine trial to date. Half the volunteers get 2 shots of the vaccine, and the other half get a fake vaccine made with salt water. With neither the volunteers nor the medical staff knowing who gets the real vaccines, researchers will monitor the volunteers' health conditions. Despite the new technology Moderna is using, the top U.S. infectious disease official, Dr. Anthony Fauci, said he's not particularly concerned about the safety risk of the trial. He reportedly said researchers should know the efficacy of Moderna's potential vaccine by mid to late fall. U.S. President Donald Trump also announced on Monday that Moderna has officially entered the final stage before approval and expressed optimism. He discussed what has been dubbed Operation Warp Speed, which is his administration's effort to deliver 300 million doses of a vaccine by January 2021.
We will achieve a victory over the virus by unleashing America's scientific genius, which is what it is. Under Operation Warp Speed, we've shaved years off of the time that it takes to develop a vaccine, in some cases many years.
The potential cost of the vaccine is also being discussed. According to Reuters, coordinators of a global COVID-19 vaccines funding scheme are targeting $40 a dose to be the highest price in high-income countries. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
The head of the World Health Organization has praised South Korea and other countries for the measures they've taken to stop what he called by far the worst health emergency his organization has ever faced. The measures he recommended, again, include wearing masks. Lee Seung-jae reports.
With over 16.5 million infections and 650,000 deaths worldwide, the WHO says the COVID-19 pandemic is by far the worst global health emergency the UN agency has ever had to tackle.
This is the 6th time a global health emergency has been declared under the international health regulations, but it's easily the most severe.
Speaking at a virtual briefing in Geneva on Monday, the WHO chief said the only way the world can beat the pandemic is to strictly follow health measures like wearing masks and avoiding crowds. He added that when such measures are followed, cases go down, singling out South Korea, Canada, Germany, and China for praise in their efforts. While the United States, Brazil, and India continue to see the highest number of daily infections, other nations are emerging as new hotspots. South Africa reported over 11,000 new cases on Sunday and is now the fifth most infected nation globally. Mexico continues to see a surge in new cases at over 6,000, while Kazakhstan and the Philippines, which has seen low infection numbers from the start, are now seeing numbers surpass 1,000 on a daily basis. Japan has also been struggling, reporting almost 600 cases on Sunday, mostly in Tokyo. There have been 5 other global health emergencies, 2 outbreaks of Ebola, Zika, polio, and the swine flu. However, with the COVID-19 pandemic not slowing down, the WHO chief says he would reconvene the agency's emergency committee this week to review its assessment of the pandemic. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
North Korea's Kim Jong-un says his regime's nuclear deterrence will permanently guarantee its security and that North Korea is not going to stop solidifying its defenses. The North's state-run Korean Central News Agency reported this morning that Kim touted what he called the regime's reliable and effective self-defense war deterrence, saying it will prevent another war. Kim's reportedly made the comments yesterday on the 67th anniversary of the armistice that ended the Korean War. The former commander of U.S. Forces Korea, General Vincent Brooks, says there will be a need for UN command, even if the Korean War is officially declared over. UN command oversees the international forces committed to defending South Korea. General Brooks was speaking Monday at a virtual seminar hosted by the Korea Defense Veterans Association to mark the 67th anniversary of the signing of the Armistice Agreement. Brooks said UN command is vital to facilitating peace on the peninsula. As for UN command potentially being used for other broader purposes, like Washington's Indo-Pacific strategy, he said it's highly unlikely because that would require the approval of the Security Council. President Moon Jae-in has welcomed a so-called social agreement signed Tuesday between the government, business, and labor to deal with the economic fallout from COVID-19, saying that each side has made a concession. Moon signed the agreement at a ceremony where he said it'll be a stepping stone in overcoming the crisis.
서로 조금씩 고통을 분담하여 이룬 합의가 기업과 일자리를 지키면서 빠른 경제 회복은 물론 경제적 불평등 해소에도 큰 도움이 되리라 확신합니다. 노사정이 함께 힘을 모은다면 3분기부터 경제 반등을 이루며 빠르게 위기를 극복하는 원동력이 될 것입니다.
Moon stressed that the government's efforts won't end there, vowing to strengthen social inclusiveness. He said the government's New Deal initiative will strengthen the employment safety net and help reduce economic inequality. South Korea has a tradition of working together to overcome crises, he said, pointing to the Asian financial crisis and the global financial crisis. This is the first social agreement in 22 years. It was supposed to be signed earlier this month, but a major national labor union pulled out, some of its members saying their demands had not been met. Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Mr. Daniel Yu, global strategist at Yuanta Securities. Mr. Yu, thank you for making time today.
Good afternoon.
Well, stocks on Wall Street bounced back overnight on the new stimulus measures and earnings coming out. Not to mention we have this rumors of a vaccine getting close to being finished. What's the story in the global markets?
Yes, if you look at the U.S. market, it has rebounded nicely. The Dow Jones added about 0.4%, S&P rose about 0.7%, and particularly the Nasdaq jumped 1.7%. It's been quite a while that we saw a growth stock related or growth related index rising that much. Overall, the news of possible additional policy measures to boost the economy has helped the overall market trend. If you look at the stimulus negotiation, it is talked about another $1 trillion stimulus plan coming out from the Republicans, and Democrats have given much bigger size. But in any case, they will come out with measures to boost the economy. However, though, Republican also proposed cutting unemployment benefits to U.S. $200 weekly from U.S. $600 until states are able to create a system that would provide 70% of laid-off workers' previous pay up to the state set cap. But in any case, overall, it's been news that we've been waiting for, and clearly that would help out the economic recovery that we are seeing in U.S. All in all, this benefited global economy, global equity market, and today most of the Asian market as well as European market has recovered. All in all, we are looking at the rebound phase of the recent correction that we saw in the last 1 week or so. And all depends on these policy measures that will help out the economic recovery in a global scale.
Korean stocks were higher again today, the Kospi especially by well over 1%. What's happening in the Korean market?
Yes, it's quite confusing in a sense because in the past we've seen foreign investors were net sellers while the domestic retail investors were the major net buyers, and that has resulted into various other stocks other than Samsung Electronics rising. But today, we saw Korean equity market rising sharply. Kospi was up 1.76% and Kosdaq was up 0.8%. But most of that rise was driven by Samsung Electronics rising by 5.4% that we haven't seen in a while. And foreign investors were net buyer of 1.3 trillion won worth of Korean equities. And out of that, about 900 billion was buying of Samsung Electronics. So clearly there's a sentiment shift that's happening at this point in time. We've been saying that Korean equity market will be quite strong over the next 6 to 12 months because continuation of the momentum that we're seeing, the economic growth rate as well as the earnings will be bottoming out in second quarter and then recovering to third quarter and the fourth quarter as the government boosting measures does work and also economy does recover from these additional boosting measures and from the fiscal side as well as the monetary policy side. So having said that, we do think that Korean equity will continue to rise. And even so, right now, the Korean won seems to be stabilizing as well. And if that's the case, then the foreign investors' net purchase or the appetite for buying Korean equity should rise in the future.
As you say, as you referenced, the U.S. dollar index has been falling steadily over the past month or so. Gold taking off, approaching $2,000 an ounce. Oil holding steady, though, at right around $40. What's your outlook for oil and these safe haven assets like dollars and gold?
Right. I've been saying that the dollar should be weakening over the period, but I have said that it will not be weakened to the level that we saw in 2008 financial crisis, where the dollar went down to below 80, as low as low 70s index-wise. We think that right now the dollar has hit about 93 low end of it, and recently just recovering slightly to about 94 territories. And we think that that is probably a reasonable band. We've been saying that dollar should be somewhere between 93 to 100 range bound. Now, having said that, we saw the shift in the commodity price changes. We saw a very strong the gold prices, but today it's been correcting a bit. It's down about 0.9%. And in terms of the oil price also, it's kind of stabilizing and it's down right now. The futures market is down about 0.36%. This is exact opposite of what's been happening in the last several days where dollar weakness and then the commodity price rise, the oil price, the gold price rising rapidly. I think that right now the trend is not something that will change in the future. It's just that it might taking some breather and the technical corrections. But we think, though, overall in the future, dollar should remain where we are, maybe to the little bit of a downside. And also the oil price as well as gold price will be rising. But we think that the gold price rising should be much stronger than the oil price because there's a change in the paradigm shift on both sides. All in all, we think that the current liquidity condition in the global market is the main driver for these type of changes, volatility that we're seeing in the commodity area.
Got it. All right, Mr. Yu, thanks so much for sharing your insights today. We always appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Now, Germany's foreign minister recently said that Russia has no chance of rejoining the G7. The Kremlin has fired back, though, saying Russia has no intention of joining anyway. Kim Jong-un reports.
Russia doesn't want back into the G7. That's what the spokesperson for the Kremlin said Monday in response to Germany's rejection of President Trump's proposal to expand the group's membership. According to Russian news agency TASS, Dmitry Peskov said Russia has expressed that it's content with the current G20 system, which it views as one that better meets modern economic realities. He also stated that Russian President Vladimir Putin has neither put forward any initiatives nor made any requests or actions that suggest Russia wants to join the G7. Peskov emphasized any group that does not include key centers of economic development is likely to be ineffective, pointing out that discussing economic and social development without the participation of India, China, or Brazil is difficult. This is in line with its stance that the G20, which includes all of the G7 and BRICS member states, is much more effective. The G7, which has been in existence since 1976, brings together the world's major economies, including the US, the UK, Germany, and Canada. In 1997, it was renamed the G8 after Russia joined, but the members suspended Russia's membership in 2014 due to Moscow's annexation of Crimea. Kim Jong-un, Arirang News.
And that does it for this hour. Thank you for watching.